Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Siblings. It Ain't Easy, a real estate podcast that just ain't typical. I'm Donna, and typically my brother Eric would be here with me, but those of you who listen regularly know that my brother has been sick, and he's not yet at a point where he can do this. So lucky you, you get me and a special guest today. Eric and I are both professional realtors with Keller Williams, and we like to have this podcast blend lifestyle with real estate as we work to communicate, educate, connect, and entertain you all. The topics do vary and we can go way off task sometimes, but we hope that we provide insights into the industry and better equip you for your next real estate transaction. My guest today is Dustin Runyon. And I told him I was going to say that we're great long-term friends because I met him 2 weeks ago, if that, right? A week and a half, 2 weeks, Dustin.
Yep, yep.
And I was at a seminar in Scottsdale, part of Phoenix, for those of you that don't know. And Dustin was one of the speakers at this event called Better Up. And there was what, five or six of you guys, Dustin,
Yeah,
that, that were
yeah. I
speakers?
spoke. Yeah,
Yeah, over a day and a half. And ironically, my coach, Teresa Barnaby, who was the first guest that Eric and I had had on this podcast talking about lifestyle and her move from the Ohio-West Virginia border to Arizona 35 or 40 years ago, however long ago, had told me to meet Dustin. And then he was sitting right in front of me because I think I poached VIP seats. So welcome, Dustin, and thank you for taking the time to do this today.
you got it. Thank you so much for having me, and it's great to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So, at this event, I'm gonna give you what I felt like I came away with overall at this event, and it was sort of about the stories of people getting through the hard to get to the good, to the success. Everyone had a personal story, and frankly, it was an emotional weekend. It was a spiritual couple days, right? It kind of made you think like if you whined about the traffic at the stoplight, that was really stupid. And so Eric, I asked him since he didn't know anything about you. He asked me a couple questions. So, Dustin, where did you grow up?
I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and I grew up in a small town called Lake Havasu City, Arizona.
You grew up
So,
in Lake Havasu,
so yeah, so about 3 hours, 3 hours. What is that? North
Northwest.
northwest of Phoenix.
Okay, okay. And was your family involved in real estate, or was your move into real estate just random and
Yeah. Yeah. So my mom had always been in real estate. So I'd been in real estate offices. There was a small real estate office here in town called Londonderry Realty, and it was. I remember the broker. I had to have been 6 or 7 years old. My mom taking me into the office. There was typewriters and Rolodex cards and no computers. Yeah, and I remember him always being so kind to me. And so real estate was it was not something I'd always thought of, but it's something that was always kind of my mom was always like a part-time agent and then full-time, and then she ended
nice.
up actually owning brokerages. So
Okay. When
yeah,
it's so funny for you to say typewriter because one of the things that in the book that I wrote and with the kids who are not much younger than you, I might say,
yeah,
that I work with, I prefer still email because I learned to type really fast on a
yeah,
typewriter, right?
yeah,
And I don't do two thumbs on a phone, so it's just so interesting. So I know what a Rolodex is.
yeah, yeah.
And all of those things. All right. So did you did you just kind of like morph right into real estate? Did you go away to college? What was that transition like for you?
Yeah. So growing up, like had a little bit of a rough childhood. My dad left at 16. Um, and so it was just basically me and my mom, and my mom worked a lot, and she was a realtor, and so I went off. I did not like school. School was not really my gig. It wasn't my gig in high school. It really wasn't my gig after. I'm like, wait, I'm paying to do stuff I don't want to do when I got into college. So I dropped out of college and I got right into real estate. And I got in around 2008, at the end of 2008.
Ooh,
and I was a short sale negotiator for a gal out of Scottsdale. So I moved back to Phoenix after I graduated from high school here. Moved
Wow.
back to Phoenix, and I worked for a gal at she was at a Keller Williams there, and I was doing short sale negotiating for her. And so
Wow.
that's
Wow.
kind of how it started. And then I moved on to
So
negotiate
what were
with
you, like, pause a minute. You were 20-ish?
21.
21. Okay.
21. I was
Okay.
21 years old. Yeah, 21 years old working with her. And she was she was great. Learned a lot from her. She was rookie of the year for her region. And I honestly I got the job off of Craigslist. So that's how I met her. Yeah, when Craigslist was a thing back then.
Wow.
Um, and then we split ways, and I started working with a guy named Kyle Wyloge, and Kyle is now Andrew the home buyer in Phoenix. But he was a great mentor for me, and I learned a lot from him. And he was one of the hardest working people I know, and worked with him for about 4 years. And I came back to Lake Havasu for Mother's Day, and we had started a short sale team at an independent brokerage with Kyle Wyloge, and came back for Mother's Day, and the number one agent in our town at that time. This was back in 2011, maybe 11 or 12.
Okay.
Um, she was doing about 20 million in sales back when 20 million was a ton, right? It was
Wow.
like, wow. She was doing 100 deals a year, 20 million. She was number one. And that year we had done like something close to like 30 million in short sales. And she had asked, what'd you guys do? And we're like, we did 30 million. She goes, how'd you do that? I said, door knocking and the internet. And she's like, the internet.
The
I'm like,
internet.
yeah, right. It was still not this thing yet.
Yeah.
Back then, Ben Kenny was doing the internet marketing specialist designation at the time, and I had taken that, and it was just becoming a thing, online leads. And so she goes, can you do that for me?
Huh?
And I'm like, yeah. So got her, a YouTube, a Facebook, got her blogging on her website, decked her website out, started lead generating online for her leads. And then another gal in the office, another top producer, hired me to do it. And then finally, my mom hired me to do it. Vicky, she hired me to work for her. And so I was doing internet lead generation essentially for all three of them. And the Phoenix thing kind of fizzled out, so I moved back here and started teaching classes at the at the Keller Williams here. And it was really cool because it was like the first time in my life that I had felt like I wasn't good at school. I wasn't good at um, like your traditional, things in
Right.
life.
Right.
Um, but I was hungry and I was competitive and I always wanted to win. And so it was awesome being able to go to this market center and to see that I was like being appreciated for a talent. And that was, I taught YouTube classes, Facebook classes, how to online lead generate, blogging,
Wow.
how to post in forums. And so that kind of started the the
Wow.
the whole thing for me.
Do,
Yeah.
do you think that your mother instilled in you and that saw in you this, even though you weren't the bring home straight A's from school person?
Here's what I would tell you. I think, every mother sees the goodness in her child, but I was not necessarily like I mean, I was 333 out of 335 in my graduating class. I graduated with a 1.6 GPA. Um,
I
you
shouldn't
talk about
laugh.
yeah, when you talk about like going through hell and back, I was lost and I was a bit of a degenerate in my early 20s and my late teens. And so, you know, the thing about your parents is they see every mistake you make. They see um, every mishap. They see every time you don't tell the truth. They see all of it, right?
And you think that
And so,
you're getting away with it.
right, right, yeah. And so when it came to working with my mom, I had some earning to do. So I had to earn some trust back, and I had to earn my right. And that's what I did by working for the two other women that were amazing women, great entrepreneurs in the real estate space. And then she hired me after the fact. So um,
Interesting.
she always said she saw good things and greatness in me, but it was something that I had to earn back. It was definitely not something that was just given.
Yep.
Um,
So I want
but
to
fast forward.
I just want to interrupt right there because something that I heard from every speaker was accepting responsibility. Like you had to accept responsibility for who you were and what you were doing. And that seemed to be a theme that I heard from everyone who was up there, like instead of the excuses and stuff like that. So, sorry.
Yeah, personal responsibility is your superpower. You know, playing the victim can feel good in the moment, but it hurts tomorrow. And no matter what you're going through, I have a great friend of mine. Last night he was at the hospital with his daughter, who is
Mm.
on her 28th heart surgery. And he's one of the strongest men I know. And I was talking to his son too, who's another strong man I know. And his son literally texted me. He's like, "No playing the victim. We're gonna get through this. Like no
Wow.
matter what, we own it." And so it's it's your personal power is in your personal responsibility. The second you point the finger at anything or situation, circumstance, event, or person, you lose your power. And so
Interesting.
I played the victim for a lot of time, a lot of long period in my life, and it always ended up in pain.
Mm.
And I'm with ruthless responsibility today. Um, and
And
I didn't have the
you
greatest
require
childhood.
that of your team?
Yes, if you're going to get close to me, you own your shit. Excuse my
Yeah.
language, but you own your stuff. Like if you're going to be close to me, you have to own it because I'm not going to own it for you. We're going to treat each other like adults. And guess what? Donna, if we went through your story, which I'm sure you shared on your podcast, or we went through mine, or we went through
Yeah.
anybody's, every story has issues and problems. Every story has pain.
Yep.
Every story has hell. Everybody's tired at some point, but it's how you respond to life's problems. It's how you respond to life's difficulties. That's what makes the difference in the quality of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Agree.
so,
Agree. So Dustin, I had asked you to change the photo behind you. I put up the little hometown where I grew up. I used to tell people that there was 499 when I wasn't home, and my youngest son, who I think might be your age, he can draw our hometown on a bar napkin, and
yeah,
he goes, "Mom, there's not that many streets." We talk about it, but. And then I think about what our lifestyle was in this little town. So I was in school with about 26 kids, but then all the farm towns came together. So then I graduated with 550 or something like that from my school because all the little towns came together. And by the way, I was exactly the opposite student.
you were the 4.1,
I
4.3.
was
Yeah.
13 out of like 560 some students. Now,
Awesome.
if we traded places right now and we each got paid for those skill sets, you're doing better than me. So getting a great grade in German class may or may not have benefited me tremendously. But I told you via chat that I have lived here now. This is my 25th year. Back in Arizona, I had come here for college and gone back to Ohio, and I've never been to Lake Havasu or Lake Havasu City. And my idea of lifestyle there is spring break and parties. That's like the only thing I know. And I don't even know that personally. That's just what I see, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have behind you a photo that I asked you to put up because you're building, owning, starting this subdivision, whatever. I'm not sure the right words here. Tell me.
Yeah, yeah, we have multiple subdivisions going here. We have an affordable housing subdivision going that's 1,100 units, and then we also have a luxury subdivision. One we just finished that was 50 lots, and this next one's 211 lots, and we
Wow.
are the exclusive builder in there, and it's a gated luxury subdivision here in Lake Havasu. But it's funny you bring it up because everyone always thinks it's a party town, and I'm like maybe six times a year it is,
All
but
the rest of the
the average age here is 57.
That's
And
what I
so
was so I was going to ask that because
yeah.
not having been there and what was the population like roughly when you were growing up compared to now?
Oh, I would say we're about 15 to 20,000 more today. So there's about 65, 70,000 here, I would guess. I was
Okay.
about 45,000 to 50,000 growing up.
Okay. Okay. And so what, from a price perspective, one of the young ladies that used to babysit for me is a realtor back at where I grew up. And prices are just, you know, amazingly different. And she was also a guest on our show. And after we hung up, she
Yeah.
said, "So you get 3% of those prices?" It was
Yeah.
kind of one of
Yeah.
those things. So what does you said affordable housing, what does that look like for you in square footage and pricing?
Yeah. So, I mean, well, affordable here. Well, I'll start with our average home price. The average home
Okay.
price here is about 500,000.
Wow.
So,
Okay. More
three,
than here.
two, 1,600 square feet. Yeah. You're around that now, depending on the time of year, 475 to 500.
Yeah.
So affordable for us is around 350,000. So that's our goal for our target for our new development, which is called DL Ranch, which is, yeah, 350,000 is that goal. So we can it's about, we're a resort town, so there's a lot of second homes out here. And we get
Okay.
a lot of Californians, we get a lot of snowbirds, we get a lot of people out from Montana and Canada and from Wisconsin and just all of the
Totally.
snow
Yep.
areas, right? Yeah, and then get a lot of the Californians in the summer. And
Okay.
so
And you
there was
can't be
a
that far. How, because I've never been to to where you are exactly. For me, I would take Interstate 8 to San Diego or 10 into LA. Where are you, like the Californians? Like what's the most direct route for you to get to California from where you are?
oh, so you're going to take to get to California from here, you're going to take the 40.
Okay, so you're up by the 40. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah. Uh So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're gonna take where a lot of people come in from California is the Orange County area.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
where we get a majority of people. Um, Similar values, they have the ocean, they're out by the ocean, they're out by the water, they want to come here. Less traffic, less
And you
all
have
that.
water. And
And we have water.
yeah. Yeah, we don't.
It's really the Colorado River
Yeah, I
that
know.
just bellies out. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no,
yeah.
it's interesting to think about that. And so that 350,000 ish, what's the square footage roughly of those options?
Those are about 1,200 square feet. So
Okay.
they're small, 1,200. So we have three options, which is about 900, 1,200, and 1,400
Okay. Okay.
for
And
those.
now switch to the luxury. What is that like?
Your luxury, we have three models and then customs. So we have a 2,100 square foot with a 24 by 85-foot deep garage. And there's options. You can get a 100-foot deep garage or a 65 deep garage, RV
Wow.
garage. Then you have a 2,400 and then a 3,000. Those range anywhere from 1.4 million to 2.4 million. And then our customs range anywhere from 3 to 4 million.
Okay, so the garage is that big. Is that because people are putting boats in there or are they high enough for RVs? But probably boats because of the water. Oh,
We have more RV garage homes per capita than anywhere in the country. And we have more RV storage per capita than anywhere in the country. So uh,
well,
I forget the percentage. It was something like, gosh, we have over like there's 60,000, 65,000 people here. And so we have something like 12 or 15,000 RV storage units, which is insane.
wow.
Yeah, they're for toys.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
our
yeah.
last garage was our next garage on the house we're building right now is 50 by 90.
That's like bigger than some of the houses, right?
Oh, it's an airport, it's an airplane hangar. It's incredible. And they
Unbelievable.
love it.
So is there a private airport there where people can fly in?
Yep,
Okay.
there's an FBO. A good friend of mine owns Havasu Air Center out here, which is a
Okay.
beautiful spot that you can fly your plane into.
Okay. Okay. I told my team leader that we were going to do this today. And I told him I'd never been up there. He goes, yeah, and he says that Keller Williams office is doing great up there. He goes, you should go up just to, if for no other reason, to go to the
Mm.
um to go to the office and see Lake Havasu. So tell me, how did you go from, okay, I'm working with my mom, I'm doing what I'm doing in real estate to now we're building subdivisions and who's we're?
Yeah, good question. So I started to become the technology. Um, I was the tech director for Keller at that time, and then the team leader wasn't really working out, and so the ALC had voted me on as the team leader. I'd ran a team meeting one time, and one thing that I found that I was not naturally good at, but that just fit well was just communication. Like I was a good communicator. I could teach classes well. I spoke fairly well, and
Uh-huh.
that transferred over into running meetings and running team meetings and running fun team meetings, and then I just got obsessed with personal development. Um, I had someone had given me a book, and I had read it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this I got obsessed with why we do what we do, like why humans do what humans do. And that became my obsession of like, wait, I can apply this, I can get better, and getting better makes everybody else better, and it makes my income better. And it just
Wow.
like, I was just so unconscious for so long that like I started to get conscious, and I I lived by myself, and I read a book a week for an entire year, and I
Wow.
just got obsessed. And we grew the company from like, I don't know what it was, 40 agents to over 200 plus agents. We launched two locations. We started a real estate school, opened up a property management company, and
Wow.
um, and then honestly, um, I just wanted something of my own. That was Vicky's, and that was her baby, and
Mm.
I kind of feel like we had taken it as far as we possibly could together. And I learned so much from her and from Keller Williams and whatnot, but I needed to go out on my own.
Yeah.
And so I started my own real estate team from there. Um, we started that in 2018.
Wow.
Um, and last year we did almost 600 transactions over, well over 200 million in sales. And while we were building the team, a friend of mine that I'd gone to high school with who did excavation. So he was grading all of these giant developments that were happening out here. And he was also doing the underground, the water utilities and
Oh,
electric.
okay. Okay.
And another friend of mine, one of my best friends, Stephanie Wu, who's now Dr. Wu, who's an optometrist, her husband, Britt Wolf, was the engineer on all of these.
Oh my gosh.
So he was the civil, and I was selling all of the developments. So
Advantage to staying around people you know through the years.
yes. So he calls me one day. He's like, "Hey man, can we meet up?" I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "Hey man, you're selling all these. I'm grading all these. Like, we should just do this together." And so that's when I was like, "Well, we should probably reach out to Britt because Britt's an engineer, a civil." And so us three partnered, and we
Wow.
did a we did a 5 acre parcel with 4 lots on it, mini subdivision. Then we did a 52 acre one, and then we did a 190 acre one, and then we did another 190 plus acre one, and now we're going after a 640 acre development. So
I can't even imagine. All right, so tell me, because coming from that little town that you see behind me that's 13 miles from Lake Erie, that's got rich, rich soil and grows great crops and near the water and all that, a constant question that we get here in Tucson and probably Phoenix too, because that's been all over the news about water. What's your water situation like as you grow?
yeah, so like Havasu City has like 100 year water for I think it was like 109,000 residents. So our water
Okay.
situation is great. The one on our affordable housing water development, we had to dig wells. So we have 2 wells out there right now. That is on the healthiest water basin in the state of Arizona. So um,
Wow.
you have to you have to do water. So a lot of development is it's fun with the municipalities, right? So you have to not only do uh, um, the soil testing, uh, grounds testing. You also have to do water testing, and you have to supply 100 year water supply testing. And then that goes with ADEQ, which is the Arizona Department of Economic Quality or Environmental Quality.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, our water situation, lucky for us, we're lucky here where we're located to have a great water source, and have hit a great basin on that water basin out on it's in Havasu Heights.
That's awesome. One of the things that, based on what's happening with the climate and with everybody everywhere, like the snow in Destin, Florida, and just, watching things.
Yeah.
We don't seem to get in Tucson, the haboob, the dust and stuff that comes through Phoenix sometimes. Do you get that like big dust storms there at all, or you pretty guarded from
We
that?
don't. We get monsoons that last 30 minutes.
Okay, that's kind of
So
us, and it could be across town or across the street, but not in my neighborhood. Is that what yours are like?
yeah. Oh yeah, it's wild.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
wild. I mean, it can tear up the street. I mean, you can have 4 or 5 feet of water in a wash really quick.
yeah, yeah. That's one of the
Pretty
things that moving
incredible.
here that it took some getting used to, and the
Yeah.
parts of the old parts of town. I often think when it was my ex-husband's grandparents were here when the town had 16,000 people, and so
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, they never planned on 2 million people in the desert. It's part of the reason that the roads didn't connect. It's part of the reason that, because these places came together. I don't know if you have that, but a road
Oh
changes
yeah.
name because over here it was over here before and then it was here and oh now they meet, weird,
Yeah. Yeah.
weird,
Totally.
weird things like that. So is there anything that you feel like you could say as we're heading into 2025, and it's not going to be just realtors that listen to this, it's, people I grew up with and I don't even know, right? We don't even know.
Yes.
So what could you you're still under 40, aren't you? Aren't you like
Yes. I'm
that's
38.
you're what, 38?
38. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I told my brother, I go, I'm pretty sure he's the age of one of my kids because I think I told you that. So what might you say to a younger person? Part of that program again was people who just totally changed their lives for whatever reason. You have told your story a little bit. What about the person that's struggling that doesn't know what to do? Any advice in this hard time? Hard time politically, hard time financially, hard time
Yeah.
emotionally? How might you advise?
Yeah. Yeah. Any part of success in life and or in business, it's 90% psychology. It's really 10% mechanics. And so it goes back to um, how you decide to respond to life. There is the most successful people I know. My business partner, he's a legit billionaire, and Mark Lindsay out of Vegas, and guys like that. There isn't, Kristen Cole. She was on her own at 12 years old.
Right,
She's had a son that has passed from
right.
suicide.
Yeah.
There just isn't anybody that I know that has any sort of fulfillment or purpose in their life that hasn't been through hell. And so, if you're in the midst of hell right now, I would ask this question, and I do this often. I said it on stage that day. I said, "How many of you have been through hell, and when you got through it, you were stronger? When you got through it, you were more understanding, you were more intellectual, you had more context to life, you had a different perspective on life." And everybody raised their hand.
Yeah. Yep.
And I said, if that's what comes from walking through hell, why do we avoid hell so much? The only people without problems are dead. And so if you're going through something difficult, you got to start with focusing on what you can control. You can control the news you listen to. You can control the podcasts you listen to. You can control who you decide to spend time with. You can decide. You can control who you let influence you, the books you read, the environments that you spend time in, the food or alcohol or drugs you ingest. Um, so you got to start there.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is when you're going through something that's really, really tough, focus on the controllables.
Mm.
Start eating better. Start reading things that are more positive and more uplifting too.
Yeah.
Start surrounding yourself with people who don't whine and complain. We have to call it the VSG, the victim support group. When we're down and out, we tend to want to go to somebody else who's down and out or someone else who will
Mm.
just sympathize with us instead of somebody who will help us and hold us accountable and help us get to that next level. We look for this victim support group, and it's a group that doesn't do much on this earth. So focus on what you control. Second thing, focus on the next best thing you can do. I go and I speak at a lot of different places and I ask this question. How many people in the crowd right now knows what they need to do and is not doing it? I'm not saying you need to know step 3, 7, 10, 12, 50, but 99.9% of people know what the next step is.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting sober, whether it's working a little harder, whether it's starting to make your calls, whether it's going to the office a little earlier,
Yeah.
whether it's getting rid of those friends that don't longer serve you, whether it's stopping on your spending habits that are drilling you down, whatever your vice is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and three, and this is like the superpower, if you're going through hell,
Superpower.
if you can find a way to be grateful for whatever you're going through, even if it's painful, um, gratitude is the antidote to any negative emotion. And if you can find, I always am grateful when I get through it. Today, I try to be grateful while I'm in it. What is this trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn from this? What is God trying to get me to see that I'm not seeing? Where is the lesson in this? And asking more powerful questions because questions control focus.
That is, I think that before we left that day, I hugged you and I kind of told you a little bit about my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And it was weird because this morning I posted, I slept till after 7 o'clock. I haven't slept till after 7 o'clock in 3 years, 4 years. Like, I don't even know what that. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've already missed 2 hours of life. But simultaneously, somebody said, what was your secret? And I didn't have a good night last night. I had a run in with my eldest. And but I think that then I was like, okay, that's done. Push it to the side because you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and you're going to do the next. And I do think that I never thought that I was a judgmental person. And in theory, I still don't think I am. However, I think that we all, the same way we look at someone, I tell my nephew, he's got gauged ears this big. I'm like, if you weren't my nephew, I just think you were nuts. And I still kind of do. But I don't make judgments anymore because we don't know what the backstory is. We don't know the rest of the life. And so if we can be empowering rather than, just like, oh, nothing at all, I do share. People know my story. It isn't like they don't. And I think that's one of the things that was great about Better Up. I think people saw the real part of other people's lives as compared to this pedestal that we think we put people on as if nothing has ever gone wrong in their life, you know? So,
Yeah. It's just not, if you're over 30, you've been kicked in the teeth
yep,
by life.
yep,
And the difference in the quality is how you decide to respond.
yep,
So
yep,
many of us are so emotionally reactive and so
yep,
emotionally charged and get
yep,
offended so easily, and
yeah,
life's happening to them,
yeah,
and they play the victim. And it's,
yep,
you know, I played that for a while and it doesn't work. My dad left at 16. I didn't talk to him until he was 30. He died 4 or 5 years ago at like 58
yeah,
years old. I didn't have the greatest upbringing with him. And you know what? I blamed him for so long.
yeah,
And was he the greatest guy? No. But first, you get to a point to where you're like, you know what? It's not my fault that my dad was not a great dad, but it is my responsibility to heal and grow from it.
yeah.
It is my responsibility to take control of my life. I can sit here and blame him till I'm 50, and people do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
blame a spouse, blame a parent, blame a mom, blame a friend, blame an event.
yeah, yeah,
And there's other people that it's what fuels them.
yeah. Yeah, that's true too. To me, it's I'm good at like playing a 33 or a 45 record just over and over and over and over and over again. It's like breakthrough. Those records, those are before you.
Oh, I got a record player. I love
You got a
records.
record
I
player,
love,
you?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for your time. I'm gonna wrap this up, and I'm gonna email you about the book that I gave you that I wrote,
Okay.
and what I'm
Awesome.
working on. I'm working on doing a TEDx related to it, but
Yeah.
also doing some team meetings, a lunch and learn. So maybe if
Awesome.
I get up that way, I sent it to Prescott, somebody in Prescott today and stuff. So, you know, be a good excuse to see you, see what you're doing, see how you're leading, and maybe be able to influence somebody related to my life, you know.
I love it. Well,
All
I love
right.
what you're doing, and thank you so much for having me on. And it was great to meet you then. It's good to see you again
Good
today.
to
And
see you again. All
if
right, I'm
there's
going to
anything
close
I could
this
ever do,
out.
I'm always here.
So as we close it out, I'm not going to do the closing that I usually do with my brother Eric because clearly he is not here to be my counterpoint. I hope that you learned a little bit today, not just about houses, but about lifestyle, where we live, how we live, dollar amounts, what we choose, and how we can continue to learn and grow every day. Keep in mind that if you're in Arizona, specifically the Tucson area, I am here to help. And Dustin is clearly up in Lake Havasu City on the northwest part of the state. And Eric is in the San Antonio area. And we also are part of an extensive network all over the world. I had somebody ask me today about Italy. And yes, we know people in Italy. So keep us in mind. If you're anywhere where we can help, remember that life isn't always easy, or it may not be simple. Oh my God, I can't even tell you what the closing quote is. It may be simple, but it ain't always easy, right? I'm going to get that right. And
So
until the
good.
next time, I'm Donna and keeping my brother Eric in my thoughts. Thank you, Dustin. Eric and I are real siblings.